My story begins when we moved into the old terraced house on Willow Lane. It was a steal, really. 3 bedrooms, a little garden out back, all for a price that made me and Jen raise our eyebrows. "Too good to be true," she'd said, half joking, as we signed the papers. But we were knackered from flat hunting, and with little Sophie starting school soon, we needed a proper home. The place was damp, creaky, with peeling wallpaper and a faint whiff of mildew, but it was ours. I remember standing in the empty living room that first day, the September light slanting through grimy windows, thinking, this'll do us nicely. The first few weeks were dead normal. I'd get up early, brew a cuppa, and head to the garage where I fix cars. Jen would sort Sophie's lunch, jam sandwiches, a penguin bar, the usual, then walk her to school before her shift at the chemist. Evenings were quiet, telly on, Sophie chattering about her day, Jen and me knackered but happy. The house felt settled, old, yeah, but cozy in that way British houses are, all narrow stairs and drafty corners. I didn't mind the odd creak or groan. Old places have character, don't they? Then the noises started. It was late October, the nights drawing in fast. I'd be dozing on the sofa when I'd hear it. A faint tapping, like fingernails on glass. At first, I thought it was the wind rattling the windows. "Bloody drafty old house," I muttered, checking the latches. But it kept happening, night after night, sharper each time. Jen heard it too. "Mark, you reckon it's the pipes?" she asked one evening, her voice tight. I shrugged, not wanting to worry her. "Yeah, probably. I'll have a butcher's tomorrow." But I didn't, and it wasn't the pipes. Sophie noticed it next. She came downstairs one morning, her little face pale. "Daddy, there's a lady in my room," she said, clutching her teddy. I laughed it off. Kids and their imaginations, right? "What's she like, this lady?" I asked, ruffling her hair. "She's all gray and floaty," Sophie said, dead serious. "She whispers stuff I can't hear." Jen shot me a look, her mug trembling slightly in her hands. "She's just dreaming, love," I said, but my stomach twisted. That night, I checked Sophie's room. Nothing but her posters and toys, the window shut tight. Still, I left the hall light on. The tapping turned to footsteps a week later. Heavy ones, thudding across the ceiling when we were all downstairs. I bolted upstairs once, heart hammering, thinking someone had broken in. Nothing, just dust and shadows. "Mark, this isn't right," Jen said, her voice wobbling as we stood in the kitchen. "It's an old house, Jen. Settling, that's all," I replied, but I didn't believe it anymore. Sophie stopped sleeping proper. She'd crawl into our bed, whimpering about the gray lady watching her. I'd hold her tight, feeling her little body shake, and tell her it was just nightmares. But I was starting to feel watched too. One night, it got worse. I woke up to Jen shaking me, her breath ragged. "Mark, listen!" she hissed. The air was thick, like someone had cranked the heating to full blast, but it was freezing. Then I heard it, a low, keening wail coming from the walls. Not loud, but deep, like it was burrowing into my skull. "What the bloody hell is that?" I whispered, my voice cracking. Jen's eyes were wide, terrified. "It's her, Mark, the gray lady. I felt her pass me on the stairs earlier." I wanted to scoff, but the sound wouldn't let me. It went on for ages, fading only when the sun crept up. We didn't sleep after that. The next day, I rang my mate Dave. He's into all that spooky folklore bollocks. "Sounds like a boggart, mate," he said over a pint at the Red Lion. "Nasty buggers. They latch onto houses, mess with folk. You tried salt?" I laughed, shaky. "Salt? What am I, a bleedin' chef?" But he was serious. "Old trick, that. Line the doors and windows. Might keep her out." I bought a bag of Saxa on the way home, feeling like a right prat, and sprinkled it round the house while Jen watched, arms crossed. "If this doesn't work, Mark, we're moving," she said. I nodded, but we both knew we couldn't afford it. That night, the worst happened. I was in the loo, brushing my teeth, when the mirror fogged up, like someone had breathed on it. My hand froze mid-brush. Then, slow as you like, words scratched into the steam. Get out. My heart slammed against my ribs. The toothbrush clattered into the sink. Jen, I yelled, voice trembling like a kid's. She ran in, saw it, and went white as a sheet. Oh God, Mark, what's happening? She stammered, grabbing my arm. Before I could answer, the lights flickered, and a shadow darted past the door. Tall, gray, wrong. I shoved Jen behind me, my breath hitching. Stay back, I shouted, but it was gone. Sophie's scream cut through the house next. We bolted upstairs, nearly tripping over each other. Her room was a state. Toys flung everywhere. The window wide open despite being locked earlier. She was curled in the corner, sobbing. She grabbed me, Daddy. The gray lady pulled my hair. Jen scooped her up, tears streaming down her face. We're not staying here, Mark. I don't care what it takes. I nodded, chest tight. Right, pack a bag. We're off to your mum's. But it wasn't done with us. As we stumbled downstairs, bags in hand, the air turned sour, like damp earth and rot. The front door wouldn't budge. I yanked the handle, swearing, sweat beading on my forehead. Come on, you bastard. Then the lights died, plunging us into black. Sophie whimpered. Jen's grip on my arm tightened. A voice, not ours, whispered from the dark, right by my ear, "You're mine." Cold fingers brushed my neck and I yelped, swinging round to nothing. Mark! Jen screamed, and I saw it. The gray lady, hovering at the top of the stairs, her face all hollows and hate, eyes burning into us. Panic took over. I grabbed a chair and smashed the living room window, glass shattering everywhere. Out! Now! I shouted, shoving Jen and Sophie through. I followed, scraping my hands raw on the frame, and we ran. Didn't stop till we hit the street, breathless and shaking under a flickering lamp. The house loomed behind us, dark and silent, like it was watching. We stayed at Jen's mum's for weeks, sleeping on the sofa and air mattress, jumping at every noise. I went back once in daylight to grab our stuff. The salt lines were scattered, the air still heavy. A neighbor, an old bloke with a walking stick, caught me outside. Heard you had trouble, he said, puffing on a fag. Last lot who lived there scarpered too. Reckon it's her. The woman what hanged herself there, years back. Never left, she didn't. I didn't answer, just nodded and legged it. We're in a flat now, a poky little place miles away. Sophie's sleeping better, thank God, and Jen's stopped looking over her shoulder. Me? I still hear that whisper some nights, "You're mine," and feel those cold fingers. I don't tell them. They've been through enough, but I keep a bag of salt by the door, just in case. You never know with these old British ghosts, do you? They don't let go easy.